India, a country with more than 1 billion people, has a rigid hierarchical social system, that is, the caste system, where the upper caste, that is Brahmins, sit at the top, while the lower caste, that is the Dalits and the Adivasis, are placed at the bottom. This hierarchy has been part of the social, moral and economic landscape of the country for centuries, creating an awful space for the larger caste conflict. Caste conflict is an epidemic that comes from the long-standing discrimination and violence experienced by Dalits, who are seen as the lowest in the hierarchy, and the Brahmins, who are the most privileged. But today, we're not here to talk about the history of caste or caste systems. We are here to look into how caste can act or manifest as a conflict between various groups of people, exacerbating the violence against the already oppressed class of women. It is to be noted that caste conflict is quite peculiar to India and is more prevalent among Hindus, but it is also practiced by other religions like Sikhism, Islam and Christianity, among others. So welcome to another episode of Gendering Conflict, War on Women and Others. In this episode, we'll look into how caste acts as a source of conflict and exacerbates the violence against women. Not long ago, in 2016, a horrific tragedy unfolded in the small village of Khairlanji, Maharashtra. 4 members of the Botmange community, a Dalit community, were brutally massacred in an act of extreme violence. This was not just an isolated incident. It was a chilling reminder of the deep-rooted caste-based discrimination that persists in our society. The perpetrators of this massacre were from the numerically dominant Kunbi caste, and the violence sparked because of a land conflict between the two communities. But the dispute wasn't just a conflict over land. It was a manifestation of the larger caste system that defines who gets to own, who gets to work, and who is considered worthy. The tragedy of Khairlanji massacre is not only just the loss of life. It is the system that allows such violence to occur with impunity. Dalits, who have fought for centuries for their rights, continue to suffer from caste-based violence even today in silence. In 2010, in Mirchpur, several houses of the Valmiki community were torched down by upper caste Jats over a trivial incident. As a result, 2 people from the Valmiki community were killed. In the aftermath, about 200 families left the village.
इसमें मेरे पिताजी और मेरी सिस्टर की डेथ हो गई थी, उन्होंने जला दिया था और 18 घरों को आग लगा दी थी, 30-40 लोगों को घायल कर दिया था.
But it doesn't stop here. Women continue to face physical, psychological, sexual violence from the male masochists and those who uphold the Brahmanical patriarchy. It's all about showing power and keeping those systems of patriarchy in place. Women from lower castes are seen as the perfect targets for them. They don't quite fit into their ideal of caste and because of their gender, often face more violations and oppression. Over the years, countless cases of caste-based violence against women have emerged. Yet, the voices of these victims often go unheard, their cries for justice fading into silence. One such tragic case that grabbed national attention was the Hathras gang rape. In 2020, in Hathras, Uttar Pradesh, a young woman from Dalit community faced unspeakable violence from the hands of upper caste men. 4 upper caste men brutally gang raped her, an act not only fueled by the gender but also the caste. She suffered immense physical injuries and finally succumbed to the wounds. But her ordeal did not end that day. According to the news laundry, quote, years after the young woman's death, 3 of the accused are back to the village and living as neighbors to her family. Meanwhile, her own family continues to live a life of captivity, caged inside their own home, unquote. This is not an isolated incident that needs our attention. Quote, in Lakshmanpur Bath, Bihar, Women were raped and mutilated before being massacred by members of the Ranveer Sena in 1997. In Bihar and Tamil Nadu, women have been beaten, arrested, and sometimes tortured during violent search and raid operations on Dalit villages in recent years. Dalit women have also been arrested and raped in custody as means of punishing their male relatives who are hiding from the police. As very young women, they are forced into prostitution in temples under the Devdasi system, unquote, states Human Rights Watch. If we look at the recent crisis in Manipur, we find that beneath the surface lies a painful and complex issue, one that intertwines caste and gender. At the heart of the violence are the dominant Methi community and the marginalized Kuki tribe. This caste-based conflict has led to horrific acts of violence, particularly against women.
It is the most heartbreaking news that to hear the news of the women and child killings. And it is a terrorist act, it is a criminal act, and it is against the humanity. Women were raped with more than I cannot name them, I cannot number them.
The brutality of these acts highlight the intersection of caste and gender-based violence. These women were not only targeted because of their gender, but because of their position as lower caste individuals within the hierarchy of power and control. But as I always say, women fight back, and when they do, they break the shackles of patriarchy and reduce this horrible system to ashes. In the next and the last episode of this series, we'll look into how women fight back and how they act as emissaries of peace in conflict regions. So stay tuned.